we'll get started today. Thank you for being here. It's Coffee with the Mayor, and it's September 9th of 2022. And I'll go through some slides. If you have any questions, you can interrupt me at any time, or you can ask them at the end. And here's a picture of my new mug I got at coffee break. The first thing we'll talk about, of course, is the 2 seasons in Wisconsin, and one is construction season. So the big projects are the 3 roundabouts that are going in, and we have this is a Department of Transportation project, and by their contract, they're supposed to be done by October 15th. I think at least 2 of the 3 are on schedule. The one at Roby Road has been lagging, although at least you can take a right in and a right out on Roby right now. And we've been trying to provide updates on the traffic flows and the progress of not only the DOT's road projects, but our own road projects on the city's Facebook site. So if you're not on City of Stoughton, Wisconsin Facebook, I encourage you to go on there. You'll get lots of information. A lot of times it'll get shared to the neighborhood group and other sites, so you might see it anyway. But we've been trying to provide updates weekly on the progress that's going on the different road construction projects. The next project the DOT will be working on then will begin in 2024, and that's really what they're calling the corridor project. And that's going to go from the interstate at Coachman's all the way up to McFarland, and they're going to do it in different segments. The first segment in Stoughton will be from Spring Road to 5th Street, because that's the area that the road is in the most worn out condition. So we encourage the DOT to do that first, and then they'll be doing a section at the same time, kind of on the McFarland end, and we're working with them to do what we can in order to make things least inconvenient for everybody that's trying to get in and out of the downtown and their businesses and even their homes. So the DOT's been very cooperative in working with us on that. We're having conversations with them about a segment from Page Street to Whole Avenue. The City Council is going to be looking at some things Tuesday night. One of the things the DOT is considering is in that section is doing what they call a twiddle. And right now, if you go from Page Street up to Whole Avenue, there's 4 lanes, 2 lanes each way. And one of the things they're considering doing is making it 3 lanes and have the center lane as a left turn lane only to try to keep the traffic moving. And you may have a longer line of cars, but it would actually slow down the cars and make it safer. And then we're also trying to understand what, if any, impacts it will have on emergency management. We think it might actually help because that center lane will mostly be open for fire, EMS, and police to go down if there's a call. So we anticipate that there's going to be a public meeting from the DOT in the next few months regarding that, and we'll try to get the dates out when we receive them. As part of the project going to McFarland, they would be adding 2 more roundabouts. One would be at Rutland Dunn Town Line Road, which on this map is kind of right up here where this vertical line is going on Highway 51. So currently this project here is 51 West, and if you drive out there you'll see there's a whole bunch of earth that's been moved out on both sides. The east side is already under construction. There's an apartment going up here, that's the Brown. And then Nygaard Street is being extended, and that's the road that goes behind Taco Bell KFC. That road will be extended, and then the new road, which is mostly in, will connect to Highway 51 at Rutland Dunn Town Line Road. The new road is going to be called Greenbrier Road. And initially there's going to be a stop sign on Greenbrier and one on Rutland Dunn. And as part of the DOT's corridor project in 2026, we anticipate that there'll be a roundabout put there as well. In addition, another roundabout will be put at Highway B, and then Highway AB going toward McFarland, and then they're still going through some public hearings with the McFarland officials about adding 1 or 2 roundabouts closer to the McFarland end, one over kind of by the Toggle Inn and another one closer to town. So what the DOT does is they work on these designs and they have deadlines they have to meet. So they want to get, for example, right now they're at a 30% design. They get some input, they update it, and then they bring back a proposal which will be a 60% design. And then eventually they do the same thing and then they come back with a 90% design. And there's always a few things that they'll change prior to the construction. But they certainly want to get things in order so the public can know what to expect when they start their project. The other thing that's going to occur at the same time is the city is looking at putting an underpass here just north of Rutland Dunn Road. So if you're a bicyclist or you like to walk, and you'll be able to walk the trail from Virgin Lake through this development with the yellow and black dotted lines, you'll be able to go all the way to the highway, and instead of crossing at the roundabout, which some people are uncomfortable with, you'll be able to use the underpass to get from one side of the highway to the other. So we're looking forward to that. As part of this project, we're going to have a 10-foot wide sidewalks going up both sides of the highway all the way to Highway B. So people that like to bicycle and walk will have some opportunities to do so safely. So that's all part of the design that we're working with the DOT in conjunction with the developers that are out here building. So like I said, the apartment on 51 West on the east side, the foundation is in. In the next few weeks, you'll see semis coming in with big planks of cement that were pre-poured or pre-cast that will set on top of the foundations. That will be the top of the underground parking. So that should be interesting to watch because they're going to literally need to take cranes and lift them off the flatbeds and set them on top of the apartment complexes. And then we also anticipate sometime this year these duplexes here in the orange to begin working on them as well. So we're still in the process of finishing up some utility work. They're doing some restoration work, planting grass that will be part of the park here. And then the trails and the roads are mostly done. They still have one coat of asphalt to put on the road, but they're pretty strategic when they put that final coat on there because they don't want it to get damaged while the rest of the construction is going on. And on the west side, they'll continue to work to get the west side prepped. A lot of these properties have either sold or will be sold. The orange ones are the duplexes or the fourplexes. One of the things the city council is going to look at is this plan was approved with fourplexes here, and then there was also some fourplex, I guess it was just mainly this main area here, and I think there was one area up here somewhere. The developer has somebody that wants to purchase these lots and turn them into duplexes, but that needs to be approved by the city council because they're already platted out as fourplexes. So instead of having 4 fourplexes, they would have 5 duplexes, so they'll gain 2 units, which will add more density to this area here and then also up here as well. So there'll be a lot of work going on here in the next couple years. There's apartments here as well, and then the red is an area that could potentially be for commercial. Right now there's really nobody that I know of that is looking at that property. The way it works out is the Department of Transportation does traffic counts, and they're basically saying if you were to put one big store here, the traffic counts would exceed what would be safe here, and that roundabout would need to be moved up from 2026 to earlier to accommodate all the traffic that would go into this commercial, and that would add $2 million on the cost of this roundabout, because currently the DOT is going to give us credit for the work they were going to do anyway, but if we needed to do it earlier, they would make whoever put this building in pay for that $2 million difference. So I don't really anticipate a major big box, for example, going in here until at least 2026, but it could also be multiple buildings there. It could be strip malls or something like that. It doesn't have to be one big building. I think the way it's zoned, it could be multiple buildings. So as we get closer to that, hopefully we'll get an indication of what ultimately will happen out here. The next slide is Kettle Park West. This is behind Walmart. And currently the builder that's going to be building out there is Lennar, the largest home builder in the United States. In this section here, kind of the north here between the yellow and the green, is the first area that they're going to start. I think they have at least one foundation dug, and they've pulled out 5 building permits so far. And they're also in the process of acquiring these smaller yellow lots, we call them alley lots. The driveways back up to each other, similar to what you might see in a Viridian home development. And they're in the process of closing on these lots too, so they would build there as well. And then we'll just kind of see how it goes and how many homes they can sell. But currently they're putting up a model home, so if somebody wants to come out and see what one of their homes would look like in that area, they could do that. And then I anticipate them, working toward building the first 5. The next one, this is one that we're currently working on. This is called Magnolia Springs. This is also known as the Tigan Farm, south of Stoughton. If you go past the library on 4th Street, you keep going down 4th Street where it intersects the Acker Road and it turns into Taylor Lane. There's a utility substation down there on the corner, and Eldon Homes, who purchased the 50 lots at Nordic Ridge, is looking to build this out. And we met with the Capital Area Regional Planning Commission last night to introduce this project. They're part of the county that approves the stormwater plan, and we anticipate that in October they'll have a staff report, and hopefully they'll approve the plan and we can start developing this. This one here, the yellow is the single-family homes, the orange is the duplexes. They're hoping that these homes will be what I would consider starter homes. I don't even call anything affordable anymore. The starter homes they anticipate will cost between $350,000 and $400,000, which just blows my mind. With the cost of materials and the labor shortage, that's kind of what's going on right now. And then also the current standards for the stormwater plan, it has to be able to accommodate a 200-year flood. So that takes more land in order to put in the stormwater and the filtration devices. And then the road construction has also gone up as well. The green area here would be the park area. There would be room for some playground equipment. The black is the trail system that would go in. That trail system would also connect to Lowell Park, which is over by where the community garden is and the baseball diamond is. And that's one of the emphasis for the city, is to try to have our trails connect to other parks. So people that want to be outside can actually go somewhere and not go down to a trail that leads to nowhere. And then also to allow future extension of the trail as we continue to develop. One of the things that's unique to this one is this green area here in the middle of the road. It looks kind of like a median, but it also will help with the stormwater. So when the rain goes in there, it'll actually go in there and it'll filter in there, and eventually it'll go through this wetland area and then be filtered through there before it gets to the river. Instead of running a stormwater pipe, which costs a lot more money, directly to the river, we think environmentally this is actually a better solution. It's kind of a new concept for Stoughton. They gave us an example of one that was in Matson that seems to be functioning pretty well. One of the things that we also try to do is preserve the trees that are along here on 4th Street, as well as this wetland area, and make that a feature of the park that people can enjoy. We're also in the process of the City Council approving some stop signs for all these new developments where there's going to be new intersections. What we try to do is let the main drag, in this case South Page, go through, and we'd be putting a stop sign at Isham Street here and also here where it connects to 4th Street. So, you know, these are all the things that we can take into consideration when we're working with the developers to make sure that as we grow, we do it in a smart way. And we try to provide different opportunities for people to live and at different price points. The next one is on the east side. This is the Matson development, and it's kind of hard to see, but on this left one here, this kind of grayish area here is already developed. So that would be if you went down the Racetrack Road and you went down like Stonecrest, a lot of those roads back there kind of dead end right now. There's barricades back there. And what they want to do is simply just extend them roads into the development. The first phase would be this triangle phase, which I enlarged on the right-hand side. And they'd like to extend the road there, and that kind of runs along Highway A, and extend the road and put in some condos there. And then once again, we're focusing on having a nice park area with the connecting trails. And then eventually, as the phases build, it would go from Highway A all the way up toward Highway 51 where the Stoughton Airport is. And there would actually be an area there that could be commercial as well as you come into town. There'd be some single-family homes, but mostly condos and some apartments there as well. So kind of a mixed area there on the east side. I know a lot of people would like to see the east side grow and create more opportunities to have more commercial services available there. We're hoping that this developer will move forward with this project that will hopefully encourage more of that type of growth in the east side coming into Stoughton. Some of the new businesses or businesses that are moving, this is the former Home Savings Building, and Edward Jones is, they have their sign up now. I think they're in there. They've been remodeling that. I've been told, but I haven't been in there, that they were preserving all the rose mowing that was in there, so hopefully that's the case. So that one is up and running. Anderson Plaza, this is the Keeganza Plaza down the road across the street. So Keith Anderson is a Stoughton alumni and had donated some money for the high school Collins Field renovation project, which I'll talk more about later. And he was worked for the 3rd largest building in the United States, building company that built single-family homes down in Virginia area. And so he's assembled a team to do development in Stoughton. And he, like I said, he's doing Magnolia Springs, and he also had purchased the remaining 50 lots at Nordic Ridge. And he wanted to have a place for his realtors and possibly have some bankers or insurance or title companies in the plaza here. There's quite a few offices in here. So he purchased the building, and they're in the process of setting up a showroom and setting up offices for their staff. The restaurant that was in there decided to move out, but I've been told that there's another restaurant coming in there. So hopefully that happens. I've been told it would be a hibachi and sushi restaurant. So we'll see what happens with that.
Is this on Main Street?
Yeah, this is on Main Street, just up the road.
Oh, okay.
It's in that building where, when we had the fire years ago, we had the hole there for several years. It's that building that went up there. I'm not sure what was in that building before there was a fire.
Courier Hub.
Oh yeah, the hub was in there.
Office there.
Yep, and I know before the building burned down, I think Stoughton Cycle was in there.
There was an electric company in there.
Oh, there was.
I can't remember now which electric. TV, it was like TV.
Oh, Quam's is in there?
Quam's, thank you.
I don't remember that.
Oh, that's back a ways.
Yeah. Okay, so we're looking forward to, having some new tenants in that building as well. The next one is Bear Arms Performing Arts Center. This is kind of across from the Opera House over by Ruth Murphy's building there. So this building here, Jordan Tilson, you might know him from the VFW, and he's also on one of the city committees as a community member. So this is like a virtual gaming place is what I'm gonna call it. I haven't been in there yet, but I know over the weekend, they were out on the sidewalk rolling some big fuzzy dice, so I'm not really sure what that was about. But you can go in there and play these games and things, so it'll be interesting to go in there and see what he has. I think they're gonna do some stuff with computers, and then I saw a foosball table in there and some other games. So this is a new business that's open. And then another one that's gonna be opening is right across the street next to the new pizza place. This purchase on this building occurred last Friday, and there's gonna be two businesses in there. The Evoque Collective, and that's the building owner, and what they're gonna do is they're gonna do art framing there. And then the second business, which is the tenant, is Alexandra Art and Design. And I actually met Alexandra Art and Design last year during the art walk. They were here during part of the art walk, and I met them afterward. Everybody gathers at one of the establishments afterward and just kind of talk about how things went. And at that point, they indicated to me that they had a great time in Stoughton. They really liked the downtown, and they said someday we're gonna have a business here. And sure enough, a year later, here they are, so we're excited about that. So it's some young couples, some businesses that started online, so they already have established a customer base, and they really mostly just need a space to do their work. We're finding this quite a bit downtown right now, a lot of young entrepreneurs that started with kind of a home-based business, a lot of internet sales, and it gets to the point where, you know, they're doing it maybe in their living room or in the man cave, and it gets to the point where the family says, you know, we want our house back. So they've been looking for places to open up their business, and fortunately, we had some locations in downtown that will suit their needs, plus it gives them an opportunity to do some retail sales as well.
When will that be open?
I think they're gonna open up in phases. So I don't have an exact date. They're in there doing some work right now. We met last Friday. We had the building inspector, the zoning director, and the assistant fire chief down there to try to help them understand what we would be looking for in order for them to get a permit to do business. And then they also want to put a kitchen in there. So they're gonna reach out to the health inspector and have the health inspector come in ahead of time to determine whether or not they need to put like a hood fan in there to accommodate that. But I think the kitchen may come later. I think they're anxious to get the place ready to open, but I don't have a timetable. You know, I'm sure the sooner the better for them. And I think they want to at least be able to try to do a sneak preview before the art walk, which is coming up later on this month. But I don't know if that'll be a permanent open or just open for that day. One of the things the city council has to approve is a business that would be going in here. And this is over by Subway. This is the old Clinkies here. And on the left side here, we have a proposal from a business that does cigars and vaping. So they want to put that in here, and they have a license that they need approved. So that'll be on city council next week. A couple other things that are going on. There's movies in the park tonight. Is the rescheduled movie that everybody's been waiting for. I think is it Encanto? Is that the name of it? I'm not that familiar, but I've been told my granddaughter wants to go, so I guess I'll probably be there tonight. And this is out at Nordic Ridge Park by the splash pad. And this picture on the right, I know it's hard to see, but there's a big inflatable movie screen they put up there. And then they have a PA system for the sound, and I was out there a couple weeks ago and they had a movie and the sound is terrific. And then you can bring your blankets or your chairs and just sit out in the park and watch the movie for free. So there'll be, I believe, movies for the rest of the month. They rescheduled a couple that were rained out and it filled up the month. So They're gonna start showing the movies at dusk, which I'm not sure what time that is now.
8 o'clock maybe.
Hi.
What time does that, do
It-
they go out when it's dark? or do
They said at dusk, so I'm not sure what dusk. Yeah, last 2 weeks ago was at like 7:45. It might be a little earlier tonight.
What are the movies listed there?
I think the one tonight is, I think it's Encanto, and then we have Goonies, and then Back to the Future, the first one, and then this last one is, I think it's Sing 2, it says. I'm not familiar with that
Sing,
one.
yeah.
Yeah, so this is the first year that they've done that, and I know the first couple movies that they've been able to have where the weather cooperated, they probably had a couple hundred people there, but there's plenty of room there. And, you know, some of the kids, if they get bored, they can run up and play in the park, just what my granddaughter does. But that's fun too, and then they can come back down and watch the movie as well. So it's kind of a cool setup. It's sponsored by the Park and Rec Department in coordination with the library. And the library does some interactive things. So for example, the movie I went to, there was a place in the movie where the character in the movie sings, so that everybody sings with it. So it's kind of cute to watch. So there's some interactive things that the library puts on to try to keep, you know, people focused and entertained on the movie. Tomorrow is Stoughton Viking Day, so this is the kind of the kickoff to the Collins Field renovation. So they put in a new press box. They put in, they took out the grass that was in the field and put in a whole bunch of drainage that was a problem. And then they resurfaced it with artificial turf. And it was a huge fundraiser. They raised over $2 million. And this is going to be called the Anderson Complex. Keith Anderson was a Stoughton alumni who's doing all the home building. And he was the big donor. And then also Stoughton Trailers. And then there's other people and businesses that had donated money, and they raised over $2 million to do this project. And what it's going to do is it's going to allow for more activities on the football field. So right now it's basically limited to football and high school football and high school soccer. What they'll be able to do is they'll be able to have potentially some youth football games and youth soccer games on there, as well as lacrosse, which has been a sport. Stoughton actually partnered with Oregon for their team and won the championship this year in lacrosse. And then the high school band will be able to go on there in March, and then more community type activities, because the concern in the past is that the grass would get wore out if we had too many events. With the turf, the biggest thing that hurts the turf is literally the sun and ultraviolet rays. It's not so much the number of activities, it's more the weather. But they're expecting this to last many years, and then when it does eventually wear out, a lot of the drainage and infrastructure they put in to accommodate the turf will still be there, so they'll just put down a new surface. So it'll probably cost about half as much to do the surface to replace it as it did to install it to begin with. So there's going to be food, music, activities for people to do tomorrow, starting at 11 o'clock and going until 2 o'clock.
The Ironman is gonna be riding right by our house.
Yeah, I mean, the other nice thing is, you know, when you do these events here, and a lot of times when people come to Stoughton, one of the first things they're here for is an event like a football game, or a reunion at a park, or a show at the Opera House, and then someday, you know, the water park. We want people, when they come to Stoughton, to have a good first impression. When they come here, you know, they're coming here, they're gonna spend some money. We want them to really appreciate what we have, the downtown, all the shops that we have. So when they're here, they're not only spending their money, but if they ever look at, moving or just coming back to a place to go Christmas shopping, for example, we want Stoughton to be part of that conversation. So when we do these upgrades, it's even more, it's really even bigger than actually all the things that it will do to benefit the school district. It benefits the community as a whole. So we support and encourage these things, whether it's school or city or even state projects. So this is another example of a lot of generous people in Stoughton and a collaboration to make this thing a reality. And they've been talking about doing something like this for years. And this is a free event. The next one is Art Walk, and this is coming up in a couple weeks. And has anybody here ever been to the Art Walk? Okay. So the Art Walk goes from 10 to 4. There'll be different artists set up in various businesses in the downtown, and you can just go in and make a purchase. They usually have a contest, and have judges to see which areas people enjoyed the most, which products that were made, and I think there's usually kind of the People's Choice as part of that as well. And Stoughton is an arts and entertainment district in our downtown, and the Art Walk helps to promote that. And even since last year, we've had numerous studios that are opening up. We have the Evoque Contemporary that opened up, the Old Art Space opened up, and then the new one that I mentioned earlier that's going to be opening. So our arts continues to grow in Stoughton, and this is another thing that attracts people to come to Stoughton, and hopefully, encourage people to shop here more. And in the case of the Art Walk, we actually had somebody that decided to locate their business here. So we're excited about this. It's a fun event. Even if you don't buy anything, it's just interesting to see all the different things. Grand Inspired is another example of a shop that opened up since last year that has art in there as well. If you haven't been there yet, I would encourage you to go there. That's the building down by the railroad tracks that we call the Depot Building, and they have some really cool things in there, and you can go in there and become a membership and make your own stuff, which is fun too. I wish I had time to do that, but it's really cool. They had some awesome mug collection in there during the coffee break weekend. So these are all businesses that help attract people to come to Stoughton. Citizens Police Academy, is anybody here going through that? Just me? That would be something that if you're looking for something to do on Wednesday nights, they're still accepting applications. And I think it's like a 8 or 10 week program, and you get to do different things. Like you get to see how they train the canine dog. You get to drive a police car on a racetrack. You get to understand how an investigation works. So you might find it really interesting. It's a couple hours on Wednesday night. I went through it probably about 4 years ago now, after I first was elected as mayor. Really enjoyed it, learned a lot. I got tased. There's a video of that. Yeah, well, I figured if I'm going to be mayor, I got to get used to that kind of stuff. So, but just to really understand, how the police department operates and what the training they go through. They can't cover everything, but they cover enough things so you have a better understanding of their job. You get to do a ride-along, so if you want to go out at night and ride with a police officer and see what they do during their shift, you can do that. So it's a good program. So I'd encourage you to consider doing that. If you want to, you could just simply call the non-emergency number, and they can get you signed up. I think they still have some positions available. Another thing that's coming up, this is,
Sorry.
go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say Music Appreciation starts, I think, later this month at the Opera House, 3
Yes.
o'clock.
Yep.
Free to the public.
Yep, there's stuff going on at the Opera House. They had their first regular show last night. It was sold out. I stopped up there after our budget meeting. Everybody seemed to be having fun. Place was packed. And then they do have a music appreciation series that'll be starting up. I haven't seen the lineup for that, but that's a free event on Monday afternoon, so you can look for that. The Senior Center helps to sponsor that, so out on the reader board here, it'll have the dates. Another event that's coming up is we formed a sustainability committee late last year, and they're having an event down here at the Course House on Wednesday the 21st from 5:30 to 7:30. And it'll be set up so you can have an understanding of some of the resources that we have here in the city, for example, for recycling, things that we can do. We recycle, we have the e-cycle program, we have a bulk pickup program, we have recently started a fluorescent light bulb recycling program. We have a brush collection that they turn into mulch, so you can get free mulch out at the yard waste site. So those are some examples of some things that we want to be able to educate community on what we do. But bigger than that, we want to understand from the community's perspective what we would like to do as far as things to have a more sustainable planet as we deal with climate change, whether that's having more solar panels, and there'll be people that can answer questions about how that works and what the investment would be and what the payback would be if you were to install one on your home and things like that, and just some best practices. So I would encourage people to go to that event at the Course House. Do you have a question?
Yeah, shingles. What do you do with shingles off your house, old shingles?
Those are the types of questions that you would have answered there. Typically, you know, the contractor would take care of them.
But where do they go? That's what I want.
They go to the county?
Yes.
So they go to the landfill?
Yep.
What about?
There's a section in the landfill where people can either drop them off or contractors drop them off, and then they take them from there to recycle.
Which landfill? The one?
The one off of 12 and 18, off by AB.
No, really?
By the golf course?
Okay, because I got a bunch.
Oh,
I
okay.
either burn them or.
Yep, you can take them right up there.
Okay.
Yeah, they also, at the landfill, they do the clean sweep, so if you have paint or chemicals you need to get rid of, you basically drive up, they bring a cart out, and you load up the cart and they take it in. I think there is a fee for that to cover the cost. So the best way of doing it is if you have things you want to get rid of, paint and chemicals,
Paint can?
is to get together with your neighbors, so you can get a whole car full of things, and you'll save money if
I
you
think
work.
it's $10.
$10, yeah, so you can do that together. So that's a good program, I've used that. The other thing that's coming up is the elections, and that'll be in November. And I think last time I was here, I talked a little bit about the Badger books. And if you voted during the primary, that was our first go with these Badger books. And what they are is, in the past, when you went in to vote, there was a desk and there was usually two people there, and each had a book with the names of everybody that was registered to vote, and they would verify your name, address, and then also look at your ID for voter ID. We can do that all electronically now on the Badger books. So when you check in or you need to register, you would register on there right at the polls, which really streamlines the process. You're not voting in these, it's not connected to the internet or anything like that. You're still gonna have voting machines like you always did, but this gets you through the line faster, and it's more efficient for the people that are working at the polls. We're in the process of working with the county, and Mike Engelberger here is our county board supervisor for this area. We are working with the county to possibly purchase some more of the machines where you feed your ballot in and it scans them in anticipation of a large voter turnout in November and future elections. Right now we have one voting machine at each site, and what we'd like to do is have two and have the second voting machine available to run in the early votes that come in, because right now, we have to have people run back and forth to the machine in between voters to do that. It would be more efficient if we had another machine. And if for some reason, when they were testing the machines before the elections, if there was a machine that wasn't working, we would basically be able to have the other one set up to take its place, so we wouldn't be, short on a machine, which would delay the process to getting the votes counted. The clerk wanted me to mention that, and then she also sent a slide with me about some key dates. So if you want to vote by absentee ballot, you should get them requested, and they have to be out by September 22nd. And then if you've recently moved here and you've acquired a new residence, you need to get your paperwork in by October 11th is kind of the cutoff. Anybody that moves into Stoughton after that wouldn't be eligible to vote here, because you have to have a 28-day residence here in order to vote here. Otherwise, you'd have to vote from where you moved from. So that's a key date. And then October 17th is the first day where our clerk and deputy clerk, they go out to the different assisted livings and help the people at Swadley or Nazareth or Kettle Park Senior Living, help them vote. So they literally go on site to do that, which I can tell you was a real struggle during COVID to do it safely. They weren't even allowed to go there, but now we can. We have protocols. We know, what we need to do to protect ourselves and protect the people that are living there. So that would be the first day that occurs. And then October 19th, the electors' deadline to vote. October 25th is the first day you can do in-person absentee voting at City Hall. And November 3rd is, if you wanted to request absentee ballot, you'd have to do it by November 3rd. And then if you wanted to register in person, the deadline is November 4th, but you could always register at the polls and they would enter it into the Badger books. And then November 4th is also the last day to vote in person early at City Hall. The election date is actually November 8th if you want to go in person from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. in our 4 voting locations. If you're not sure where you need to go to vote, some of that did change with the census. So if you didn't vote in the primary, it's possible that your voting location may have changed. There's a couple hundred that were affected when the new census was done and they did the redistricting. So if you're not sure, you can either contact the clerk's office or you can go on our website under the clerk's department, and there's some maps that kind of show where the boundaries are for each of the voting districts. And then all the voting needs to be done by 8 o'clock. And that's when throughout the day, then they'll be running through the absentee ballots. You have a question?
Yes, on the registration for absentee, there's some confusion. Do you have to register every time, or because my ballots come to me every time, I don't re-register?
You shouldn't have to re-register unless you moved.
Yeah.
Or the other thing that happened is if you hadn't voted for a certain period of time, and I don't know what that is, the clerks were basically, I'm going to say, forced to purge those voters on the voter list. So if you hadn't voted for a while, your account went stale. The state law or the ruling by the judge said those people had to be purged. So if you get there and for some reason you're not in the system, you can just register on site and we'll get you taken care of. But just make sure you bring your ID with you. I don't know if you have anything to add, Mike.
ID and I believe proof of residence, which like a utility
Should,
bill or something.
yeah, it should be on your ID. A utility bill is good to have with you if you're not sure. But yeah, there's been a lot of changes and it continues to change even this week. There was a ruling by a judge and then the election commission put out some guidelines. If you have a disabled, partner, for example, there's some new guidelines that you can help assist them in voting. In the last election, you weren't allowed to do that. That could change again. I mean, everything is going to court right now. And then there was also some other rulings that really went against what I'll say is voter rights by a different judge. So some of this stuff is still in flux. I'm trying to schedule, the clerk wasn't available to be here today, so I'm trying to schedule a day where she can be here separate to me. So if anybody has any questions specifically that she can answer better than I can, we can have that set up. So we're trying to coordinate a date, and hopefully we can make that happen. And if we do, we'll let the senior center know so they can let all you know what's going on. But I was hoping to have her today, she just wasn't available. But this is kind of the general rules, and you can always just stop in or call City Hall and we can help you. There's the clerk, the deputy clerk, and our receptionist can help answer any questions that you might have about voting. We do expect it to be a heavy turnout election. We have the governor's race, we have the state senator's race, and then we have locally, there's the Dane County Sheriff, there's some judge races, and then there's also some assembly races. And with the redistricting, there's going to be some new candidates in our area that you might never heard of. So I'd encourage you to, go online or read the literature that comes in the mail so you have an understanding about the candidates that are on the ballot, because there will be some new ones because of the redistricting. So that's all I had on my list. Unless anybody has any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. Go ahead.
That new development on 4th and Ocker,
Yep.
is it on 4th or is it on Ocker, basically?
It is, I'll pull up the map again. So it's mostly off of South Page. 4th Street is here on the right,
Okay,
kind of where the ponds are. So 4th Street goes down. We would add a road here to get into it from 4th Street. And then South Page will go into it as well. So it'll be really in the middle of South Page. So you'll be able to enter it from Page Street and from 4th Street, and then also where this green is, there's going to be a turn in here on Ocker, and then I think this one here is just an out, an in and an out where this boulevard is. And then there's some farmland here to the left, and then if you keep going to the left, Highway 138 would be over here.
That's all residential, right?
Yeah, it's single family is the yellow, and then the orange is the duplexes. So there'll be 118 is the total number of units there. So and we think, the duplexes will probably be the most affordable, but I don't know what the price range on the duplexes will be yet. Any other questions?
Next to the power plant, there's some equipment or something sitting there. That doesn't belong to the farm then? Does that belong to the city or?
I think it belongs to the developers. They've been doing some earthwork out here.
Yeah, I've seen that. But
Yeah.
right next to the plant there, power plant, there's a tarp with a building or something. And
I'm not really sure what that is.
Okay.
I'll have to drive down there and look.
it just takes away from the building site. I think if it, whatever it is, I
You're
didn't.
talking about by
On
this
the
development?
On Ocker Road,
Okay.
yeah.
I'll have to drive down there and find out what that is. I don't know if that's, if it was our stuff, more than likely it would be inside the substation there, because that's Stoughton Utilities equipment.
This has a fence or a gate or something by it. but-
Yeah, I'm guessing that's the contractor's
Yeah.
equipment. Are there any other questions?
so the wish list for a Target is simply that, a wish list on 51.
Yeah, I think it's a wish list. I haven't really had anybody say anything to me about what that could possibly be. Like I said, it would if they were to do one big store like that, they would have to put that roundabout in before 2026, and there would be a huge expense. And it's not the kind of money the city or the developer would more than likely want to pay for. But it's possible if it was a big store and they have a lot of money and they want to get open sooner than later, maybe they would pay for it. But it would be difficult to get it coordinated. I mean, the design work will be done because DOT's already doing the design work, so you would have to more likely, bid it out and get some estimates to actually get the work itself done. But a building like that would probably take, I'm going to say, a year to build anyway. So it's possible that they could come to an agreement before 2026 and go through the approval process to get whatever is built there, the site plan and those types of things done with the city, and then bid it out and then start constructing it before the roundabout went in anticipation of it being done about the time the roundabout would open. So they could probably start before 2026. But at this point, I don't know if the developer is really actively marketing it. He's really focusing on the other lots here and getting all the infrastructure done to service the entire project. And there's a lot of work going on. They've made really good progress on the east side. I was there twice this week, and the roads and the trails are looking really good, and the apartments taking shape. The weather has been very good for the builders this year, but they're having the same trouble as everybody else is trying to get reliable help. And you see that on projects all over the place. So what's happening is if they get one area that's ready to be worked on, but the next area is not, they don't want to come here until it's all ready because they have other projects to do. So they'll send a crew there. And we've had some of our road projects where, they started working on it and then they left for 2 weeks because they're waiting for maybe another project in town that they're working on to get to the same point, and then come back and knock them both off at the same time. So they're trying to keep all the balls in the air because they've been short on people as well, or materials is the other big thing. We're running into some struggles getting some of the materials for our utilities that we want to install. But we, are looking at other options as far as what we can do in order to at least get temporary power so they can start working on the buildings until the permanent materials come in. So there's a lot of scrambling going on, which sometimes can delay things, but it drives up the cost. That's the other thing. And that's another reason why them starter homes are so expensive, because it takes longer and it costs more to get these developments done, and ultimately the homeowner is going to pay more too. It's just the world we live in right now. But the good news is we do have a lot of development that's going on, which provides a lot of opportunities for people to consider moving to Stoughton, which is good for the businesses, and it's also good for the school district, which has been suffering from declining enrollment for many years now. We think it's all good. We're trying to design it where we have younger families coming to Stoughton. Hopefully some of them will be able to work here at places like Emmy Roth that'll be opening up, and then have children for our schools, which helps support the school district, because then we get more money from the state to our school district and less money from the local taxpayers to keep our schools open. And we have enough room in our schools to accommodate the growth. So right now there is a couple referendums, but there isn't any referendums to build a new school at this point. Next month at the coffee, Superintendent Keyser will be here to talk about the referendums in detail. So if you're interested in that, what the school district wants to do and how that'll affect your property taxes, he should be able to answer your questions. That'll be on the November ballot as well. So we expect there'll be 2 questions. We expect that a lot of people will turn up to the polls to vote on the school referendums as well. So that'll be at the coffee in October. And then, like I said, I'm trying to get a special date here for the clerk to be here. And then if there's anybody else that you would like to be here in the future, feel free to let me know. If you want to see somebody from the police department, we're hoping to have the new permanent chief sworn in sometime in October or November. If you think it'd be interesting to talk to the chief. If you want to talk to the sheriff after the election, we can bring in the sheriff that gets elected, or the county executive, or if you want to hear Mike give an update on the county, we can do that. So let me know if there's anybody in particular that you'd like to listen to other than myself.
How about where are the offices for Waleen's business gonna be?
So that would be, if you're looking at this map, Waleen's purchased the property north on this east side here. So it's 51 all the way to B,
Okay.
all the way to the back of Sand Hill School. So there's about 180 acres,
Okay.
and they want to relocate build a headquarters out there. Right now, we don't have a site plan. There is a detailed neighborhood plan that was done, but that was many years ago when they were first talking about putting Walmart there. Obviously, that'll have to be redone. That's part of our comprehensive plan that we update every 10 years. So they may have to go through and amend that plan. So my understanding is they're working with their team to figure out where exactly they would put their headquarters, what roads would lead into the development, how much stormwater they need in order to be able to get their urban service area amendment through the Capital Area Regional Planning Commission to serve the entire 180 acres, and then kind of what their vision would be, because they're only going to need approximately 15 acres, which is a pretty sizable building and parking, but there's 180 acres. So we're waiting for them to come back to us with a concept plan of what they want to do with the rest of the land. The city is, in our budget, we have some money in there right now. We had our first budget meeting last night for the money we borrow. The money we borrow is basically for buildings and vehicles, and roads are the most expensive one. And then, so the city, in that budget, we have a request for some money to do a feasibility study for our Parks Department to see, as this would be developed out here, it would require a pretty substantial piece of parkland. And what does the city need? And what, not only what the city needs, but what does kind of the region, which is Dane County, need in an amenity? So is it baseball diamonds? Is it an indoor gym? Is it an aquatic center? What would the city of Stoughton need, or even the area need, in a potential development out there? So we'll see whether or not the city council approves that as part of the budget. If they do, we would probably be working on that study sometime next year as part of this development with the Walleens.
How about water thing that you're talking about?
What's that?
With the paddle boards?
Oh, the water park?
Yeah.
So the water park is, do I have a slide in here? So this is what's been done so far on the river. This is the redevelopment area. So Kurt Brink out of Madison is working on that. We did get the okay from the DNR to continue this project. We did the riverbank restoration as far as we could go until we hit the most heavily contaminated area. But we did have our plan approved. So what that means is when they start putting up apartments over here, we have a plan to remove and replace any soil that might be contaminated, whether it's to relocate it on another area of the site where there may be a parking lot, or to take it to a landfill and bring fresh soil in. There's a bridge and there's a solar panel that's going to be going up there as well. The frame is for that. And then where the water park is, which is your question, is,
Or the kayaks are gonna go through rocks.
yeah, I don't know if I have that, I don't have that slide in here. So the water park, I'll just pull it up quick, a map. Let's see, I wanna go. So the water park, we continue to work on grants. The city council will be considering accepting a $225,000 grant from the DNR on Tuesday night. And that money would be about half of the cost to do what we're calling the mill pond restoration. So as this project moves forward, and we're still working with the DNR and the Army Corps of Engineers to be permitted to do this project. That decision hasn't been made yet. But if it is made, what we've been trying to do is line up grant money to help pay for it. And right now, we believe that if this goes forward, it'll cost the city approximately $2 million and maybe less, depending on how many more grants that we receive. So the grant that they're going to be considering Tuesday night would be, we know that based on the current plan, the water level at the dam will drop about 2 feet, which will narrow where the mill pond is. It'll mostly be the channel there, and it's the area in the mill pond. If you drive down there right now, it's full of lily pads. You can't do anything in there anyway. That area would dry up and become land, and what we have to do is we have to cap that before, you know, basically as we do the work on the dam, you draw down the water level, but we have to make sure that none of the sediment runs down there. And the DNR will be working really closely with us on that. The mill pond will narrow and that'll become land, and then the grant would help pay to basically replant that. And eventually that would be parkland, and there'd be a trail going through there that would connect underneath 4th Street to the other side where the redevelopment is going on. So we'll have a nice trail system that'll get us all the way over to past Uniroyal to about where the footbridge is. And then we'll also have a study to go from the footbridge all the way up to Cooper's Causeway, and we received a grant to pay for that study to figure out if we can continue the trail. Some of it might have to be sidewalks in certain segments of the trail, but we're putting together a plan to try to get this trail to go all the way up, basically to the lower Yahara River Trail, which is up in the business park, which will eventually go all the way to Madison. And the park going to Madison is a county project, and they'll be beginning the section from McFarland to Viking Campground. Is it to the campground, Viking Campground? Lake Higanza. Lake Higanza State Park. I don't know if that's this year or next year.
I think maybe next year.
Yeah, so the county has been working their way towards Stoughton. They have the money, they have a plan to get to the Lake Higanza State Park, and then the last section would be from Lake Higanza State Park, basically over to Highway B, and then it could eventually come all the way downtown, and then it splits off toward Scotland and Stoughton Hospital as well, and then we can loop it around this development here along the river, so we'll have a nice loop going all the way around. So that's all kind of part of these projects that are going on. They're all interrelated, even though they're separate projects. And our plan now is to get through the permitting process. One of the things the engineers are working on with the DNR is a concept that they could create a hydraulic gate that could lift up when the water level is low to minimize the water level drop upstream. And that would be similar to what the dam does now. The dam does it vertically. The hydraulic lift would go up, and it would hold back water when the water flow is is slow during the drought season, and that's really the biggest concern for people. Upstream is the water levels. Obviously, there's some sentimental value to the dam itself that, you know, people don't want to lose it. But I think that when it's all said and done with, and it'll take several years for this area to grow back in and to be green and all the trails and everything to be done. But when it's done, we believe that based on what they've done in other communities throughout the United States, that people will, in the long term, be pleased with the project. And it'll be something that improves the river quality. It'll improve the fishing, because the fish right now can't get upstream past the dam to spawn, so they'll be able to do that. And then it'll also have a better trail system in there, and yes, it'll have some recreational use for the canoers, kayakers, surf wave feature for people to surf up where the dam currently is, and then these ponds down here would be mostly used for the kayakers and tubers. And the use will really depend on the water levels, and that's based on the amount of rain we get. So when we get a lot of rain, it'll be mostly kayakers. When we have lower amounts of precipitation, it'll probably be more of the tubers. But we believe that regardless of the features that we're putting in for the rafting, that the best thing to do for the river is to let it get back closer to whatever the natural state was. That's what's best for the water quality, and that's what's best for the fish. That's the main reason why I support the project. The other stuff that goes with it, the water park, if that brings people to Stoughton, that's great too. But regardless of that, the best thing you can do for the river is to get it back to where it was naturally. The old powerhouse building will still be there. We expect that that'll be repurposed, but it doesn't generate any electricity. The dam doesn't have any use other than it's just there. It does hold back a little bit of water during the low water level marks, but it does not provide any flood control, and it does not have any use to generate electricity, and it's not cost effective to try to make it generate electricity. We went through that process a few years ago, and it would cost us more to make it, and we would have to sell the electricity for more than double of what it would cost us just to buy it out of the open market. So it's not cost effective to operate, and it would take a lot of money just to get it to the point where it could operate. So that's kind of what's going on with that project. Any other questions? And we expect that the work for the dam itself, more than likely, if assuming everything gets approved, would begin probably the winter of 2023 and then continue into the spring of 2024. But we'll see. We have to go through the process of getting it approved. We've had the DNR on site. They seem to be supportive of it. We've been able to secure quite a bit of grant money for this project, as well as some money for this redevelopment area. And given that support, we anticipate that they would approve the plan. Any other questions? All right, anything about the senior center they should know?
We are rounding the end of our fundraising for next door. We should have that completed by the end of this month. And just doing our regular fundraising for the rest of the year. Other than that, just regular goings on. Always check the newsletter.
All right, anything for our county board representative Mike? So the county is working on some initiatives. They're doing the dredging and the suck the muck program upstream, which also will help the flow and the water quality of the river. And what else is the county doing?
It's pretty vast. They do a lot of things. I'm actually on the Public Works and Transportation Committee,
And it covers a lot of different things, including the zoo, the Lion Energy Center, the highways, a lot of the landfill. So it's keeping me pretty busy, just working on that stuff. But I'm also on the land conservation committee, which they buy up land around and try to preserve so we don't have runoff into the streams, and they work with farmers, and it's some really good programs to keep the water clean and protect people. So they do a lot of good for the people of the county.
All right, any questions for any of us? Otherwise, thank you very much for being here today. Hopefully you found it informative, and bring some friends next month if you want to learn more about the school district. And we'll let you know if we can get a date set up for the clerk to be here. All right,
Thank you.
have a great day.